Simon Mankind Miller's Fingers here. If you know, you know. If you don't know, do not worry about it. And I am so happy to come to you on this Sunday morning, if you are watching on day one, to talk about Impact Wrestling's Sacrifice pay-per-view event. Because if you had asked me beforehand, hey Simon, how excited are you for this? I'd be like, pretty excited. I love wrestling. But my word, was I not ready for what I was about to get. Because yes, we had an absolute doozy of a main event, which I will get to in around about 18 or so minutes. But right now, thank you very much for joining me. My name is Simon Miller. I've said that twice now. But let's take the broken finger of power and give the good bits an up and the bad bits a down for Impact Sacrifice. So everybody is going to have their own ideas, and there's no right and there's no wrong. But when it comes to structuring a card, I think you kind of want to start with somewhat of a banger of a match. And when it did come to Sacrifice, we started with Reno Scum versus Decay. And I like both teams and the match was fine, but given that the build had simply been on Impact this past Tuesday, one team had gone, hey man, do you want to have a fight? And the other team had gone, oh yeah, sure, let's have a fight. Well, it just didn't really grab me like I was hoping for. I just think like DDP, you want to open with a bang, and we didn't do that, so it left me feeling a little bit cold. Someone's got to get it down. There's also Black Taurus that got beaten up a lot during this, and he feels like one of the hottest guys in the company right now, and he should be bullhorning his way through everyone. Crazy Steve eventually got the hot tag, but even that wasn't enough, because I tell you, Reno Scum would have won here if it wasn't for Rosemary, who was at ringside. Because she the green mist right into Luther's face, and then Thornstowe got hit by the Taurus driver, 1, 2, 3, and thankfully, Black Taurus scored the pinfall. Do have to say though, I always enjoy it when wrestlers name moves after themselves. So Black Taurus was like, hey, I hit a driver, my name is Black Taurus, I would just call it the Taurus driver. That's like me calling my finishing move the Miller Slam, like I'm some kind of jobber from the 80s. We then moved into Havoc and Nevaeh taking on Caliban with Decay and Tenille Dashwood. And well, this is kind of exactly how I felt about the first match, round 2. Because the Havoc and Nevaeh fallout doesn't really seem to be heading in any serious direction with any real steam. And when it comes to Caliban and Tenille Dashwood, if I dare say it, I think maybe, just maybe, we have got to the stage where they'd actually be better off without each other. Their stupid selfies do make me laugh, but I think if they did separate and we could actually push Tenille Dashwood into a real serious feud with someone like Deonna Purrazzo, I think that would be quite good, because Tenille Dashwood is very good. As ever, if Tenille was in the ring, they were kind of competitive, but every time Caliban with a K was in the squared circle, he was getting his ass kicked. And that's mostly how Havoc and Nevaeh were able to stay on the up and up. But I tell you, if we are not about to properly break them up now, then I don't know the point of this finish. Because Dashwood had been hit with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, courtesy of Nevaeh. But because Havoc was in the ring, the referee was like, oh, you've got to get out the ring, you've got to get out the ring. And when he was doing that, everybody was distracted, so Caliban with a K ran in there, he reversed this roll-up, 1, 2, 3, Tenille Dashwood and Caliban with a K scored the very unfair victory. We also had another surprise roll-up on this card, which was far better than this one and was actually brilliant, and I think if you knew you were going to do that, here's the Impact script, why the hell would you book another match to finish with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment? So for all those reasons, down. Eddie Edwards then met up with Rich Swann and gave him a pep talk getting us ready for the main event, and at this stage I was like, man, I am super duper pumped for that, because I really didn't know who the hell was gonna win. So I was already excited, and that just made me more so, which was doubly true for the next match. Through sheer quality alone, I have completely bought into Violent by Design, even though I have no idea what these crazy people are on about. They're basically maniacs for the sake of being maniacs, and now I'm like, cool, maybe I'll be a maniac too. Here they were taking on Beer Guns, who also had Jake Something in their corner, and I just knew that something, see there's the problem with that name, was gonna go down. I just walked up the wrong alley. I'm also very worried about Cody Deaner, because once again, he was just destroyed in this match, and we've seen what does happen when he drops the ball. Eric Young was at ringside, and I kept looking at him, and he looked like a disappointing pappy. And this really was the case as well until Joe Doring got in there and started taking care of James Storm. But when he got the hot tag, can't do it properly because of my broken hand, to Chris Sabin, once again I just need to say this. Chris Sabin is incredibly underrated, and at one stage in his career, he needs to be able to have a match on the biggest stage possible so more people realise, oh my gosh, Chris Sabin really good. The tag team klaxon sounded towards the end of this thing, which causes everybody to get in the ring, including Eric Young and Jake Something, who were on the outside, when all of a sudden, who made their return to Impact Wrestling? It was none other than Reno, and of course he was beaten up by Violent by Design, but clearly they have some kind of fiend powers, because they have got in his head, and he speared Chris Sabin, or gored him I should say, and he's joined their damn ranks. And that allowed Dina to pin Sabin for the 1, 2, 3, so the VBD just got a little bit bigger. I thought this was great though, much like Cody Deaner, I bet it is sold as, oh my gosh, we got in Rhino's head, and it was a wonderful surprise. It does make this faction even better, and I'm genuinely intrigued to see what they say about it on Impact Wrestling. Top stuff. Cut to a backstage promo with Brian Myers afterwards, who was still moaning that Impact Wrestling is a really unsafe place to work, even though he is basically about to have a street fight no DQ match against Eddie Edwards. So good going there, Brian. We also saw him pay off Hernandez, so you knew at least something that was about to happen in the next match. Still, it's pretty good. Up. The no rules stipulation meant before long we had garbage cans and cookie sheets in the ring, and I really would like to know who was putting cookie sheets underneath a wrestling ring. What, you think you're gonna slam someone and then cook up some cookies? I don't think you're gonna do that. That said, I'd much rather be smacked with one of those as opposed to when Eddie Edwards gave Brian Myers a superplex through a bunch of chairs. I mean, how does that not just murder your back? They were then teasing about throwing each other through tables before Hernandez finally turned up to do his job. But man, he sucks at this, because Matt Cardona had clearly been watching him. He ran out there, hit him with the radio silence, and then those two disappeared, and it got really bad for Brian. You should have saved your cash. Because he got backpack stunned from the apron, through a table, onto the floor, and while you can be that guy and go, well, wouldn't this hurt Eddie Edwards as much as it did Brian Myers? And to be fair, you would be right. It was a pretty damn stunning visual. Edwards then followed it up with the Boston Knee Party, and he put some kind of object in his knee pad to get proper revenge against Brian Myers, who had done a similar thing a couple of weeks ago. He got the 1, 2, 3. Surely this is the end of the feud, and now we can go on to Brian Myers and Matt Cardona properly. And you've got to assume those two have a bunch of ideas. In real life, they're the bestest of friends. So all of this was fine by me. It was very well constructed and a very entertaining fight. The good momentum then continued too, because we had Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz defending their women's tag team championships against Jordynne Grace and Jazz. And yeah, like I just say, up. In terms of their win-loss record too, Jazz and Jordynne absolutely suck because they never win the big one. And it was kind of true here too. Now, we did tell the story that Jazz and Jordynne Grace are really strong, but what they weren't counting for is the fact that Kiera and Tasha are a really good tag team and they work together so well, and that's kind of what we did here. They're also assholes that know how to win, so even when Jordynne Grace did get the hot tag in there and she was being all like a house on fire, they hit this neck breaker double foot stop thing that looked horrible, and then all of a sudden they were back in control. Jordynne went for the muscle buster at one point, but it was the worst thing she could have done. One of the worst things she could have done is gone to the referee and say, "Referee, DQ me, I don't want to do this anymore." But instead, she got kicked in the face, then she got crucifix bombed, and she got hit with that spinning fisherman suplex, and yeah, like I say, she got beaten. Fire and Flavor are still your tag team champs. Surely the end of all of this too is that we do get Jazz versus Jordynne Grace in a one-on-one singles match. I mean, really, they're so powerful, they'll throw each other through the ring. Moose was then mad, naturally. Gia Miller was trying to get an interview with him here, but he was like, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to talk to anyone. Just watch the match later on, and you will see history made. I tell you, he wasn't wrong. Beforehand, though, it was Ace Austin versus TJP for the X Division title, and if it wasn't for the main event, this would have been the highlight of the show. And it is just awesome that the X Division has found its way again, although you could argue that it never lost it. But this was just everything good about it, and it just got better from start to finish. I mean, the counters, the transitions, the reversals, the crazy high-flying moves. I think sometimes we just need to take a step back and realize we're kind of in a golden age when it comes to professional wrestling, because look at what these two guys did. I mean, at one point, Austin hit the ropes, then TJP just launched himself diagonally, and you were like, what are you doing, TJP? Have you forgotten you're in a wrestling match? But instead, he went to the apron, and he hit Ace Austin with a springboard DDT. It was redonkulous. Austin is still a dick though, so he kept trying to use TJP's own moves against him, but that didn't work, and it eventually meant that Austin had a gammy leg. But you know what he did in retaliation? He was like, okay, fine, TJP. You want to ruin my feet? well, I'll just smash your head in. TJP still had the thing won and he was ready to hit the Mamba Splash, but again, Ace Austin is a massive asshat and he took the referee and positioned him so TJP couldn't hit it. He then also kicked TJP in the face, rolled through a splash, hit a double foot stop thingamajig, and then smashed him with the fold to not only get the victory, but become the new X Division champion. And I actually made noises here because I didn't think we were going to change the belt. I do think it was the right decision to make though. Ace Austin now has a cup and a belt, and who doesn't want those two things? Just go and watch this now. Seriously, go and watch this now. It is modern professional wrestling done right. We were then back in Johnny Swinger's casino, and I know a lot of people love this, so I just want to say, that's awesome. Good for you. How many times have I said, if you're entertained by your sports entertainment, then you win. And that's all I want is for you to win at life. But it goes right over my bald head. It's always there just to set up some kind of random match, and here it was Alicia Edwards and Tenille Dashwood, and you remember they fell out months ago because they were going to be a team and they weren't a team, and they shared a bad word here, and then went to Scott D'Amore and said, hey, we want to have a fight, and he said, all right, but no. Because instead, on Impact on Tuesday, we are going to do a 12-women tag team match, 6-on-6. If this doesn't include at least a couple of AEW people, I don't know what the hell we're doing. The women's knockouts title was also up for grabs next as Deonna Purrazzo was defending it against ODB. And all of it just felt too fast down. And the build was fine too, with ODB getting beaten up by Purrazzo so she could challenge for this championship. But honestly, it just feels a little bit like a transitional feud to get to whatever is next. And that was kind of proved here, as this didn't really go that long at all. And that's really good too, because the goal here should be to take Deonna Purrazzo and turn her into this amazing champion that has a really long reign. But you know, Suzanne and Kimberly were kicked out early on, and then I suppose the real issue was that I never believed that ODP was gonna win to become the champion. So when she did tap out to the Venus de Milo, my reaction was just like, yes, that's what we should have done, and I'm glad that we did. It also gave ODB a little bit of an out because her arm had been worked over the entire match. This was fine, it was also kind of just there. Impact Wrestling had also clearly decided that the Sacrifice pay-per-view should be where we hit the reset button and shake things up, because we then had another title change, and if you are keeping count, the total by the end of the night would be 3. The second one absolutely surprised me though, because yes, FinJuice defeated the Good Brothers to become the brand new tag team champions. And this was also just excellent. Obviously the whole thing is tied into the history between Gallows and Anderson and FinJuice, with the Good Brothers being, man, we've had all these title reigns and who are you? You're nothing but a couple of rookies. So now when the good guys did get one over the bad guys, it just made you feel, you know the deal, warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. It also makes this whole Forbidden Door thing even more exciting, because now the Impact belts are held by New Japan guys. We know about Kenny Omega, and we'll talk about Rich Swann later. But also, the only championship run that FinJuice have had was the IWGP belt, and that lasted for about 8 seconds. If now they can hold these ones for ages, well, they're just gonna feel like a better pairing because of it. Finlay also plays the babyface in peril brilliantly because he sells it so well, and when Juice Robinson got the hot tag, he couldn't help but root for these guys. The brothers went for the Magic Killer on Juice Robinson at one point, but Finlay stopped that from happening, and they realized at that point, look, we're gonna have to get one of these two idiots out the ring if we are gonna beat them. And Gallows, he's the tallest, so we'll throw him to the outside. They then hit the Doomsday device onto Anderson, which remains one of the most terrifying moves you'll ever see in your life. And even then, even when the referee was like 2.6 with his count, I was like, he's gonna kick out. Clearly he's gonna kick out, and then my word, he didn't kick out. It was a great surprise. It also means that FinJuice are hanging around, and I've got no problem with that. And I bet Kenny Omega and Don Callis are gonna be so mad about all of this, because I don't think it was part of their master plan. Once again though, it makes me want to tune into Tuesday Impact and Wednesday AEW. You see how this whole Forbidden Door thing is working. And then, well, who the hell thought I would be saying this? And I just want to extend my arm towards the camera and offer an apology to the one and only Moose. Because I didn't really get all his stuff with EC3 at the time, but now with hindsight, I can look back and realize this was a way to hit reset on his character, to turn him into this monster he has become. And flippin' Nora has he turned into a brilliant professional wrestler. Rich Swann is also terrific, and I'm in love with both of them, and this is honestly one of the best matches you could possibly hope to see this year. Which is why it doesn't just get an up, it gets a golden up. I also had that feeling the whole time of not actually knowing who was going to walk away as a double world champion, And just look at the sheer investment we've had in both guys. Moose has done his old EC3 thing, as we've already talked about, but Rich Swann had a year-long injury that he too had to return from. So it was like, my word, what are we gonna do? Rich was always gonna have to be fighting from underneath too, because the size difference here was absolutely ridiculous, but he realized that. That's why he kind of fought dirty in the early going, including taking Moose's face and just slamming it into everything that he could. But did this hurt Moose? No, he was like the T-1000, it just pissed him off. It took Swann reversing a top rope bomb into a head scissors before Moose even looked at all vulnerable, but even then, Rich Swann followed it up with a cutter, and Moose, he kicked out at one. A 450 followed, but that may as well have been a hug for all the good it did, and it was at this point I was like, man, Moose is kicking out of everything, maybe he is gonna become the champion. Especially because of what he did next. And honestly, you just gotta go and watch it, because with Rich Swann on the top rope, Moose ran up the turnbuckle and he basically hit what can only be described as a moonsault flipping slam. I don't even know what you would call it, maybe a flipping fall away slam from the top rope, and my mouth was agape and I was like, how the hell did Moose do that? Someone should give him some money or something because he earned it, and given that Vad didn't beat Rich Swann, that was it for Moose. He was like, I'm done, I'm gonna get a gun and I'm gonna shoot you in the face. Instead, he kept going for spears, but Rich Swann kept getting out of the way and Moose kept ramming himself into the ring post, and I was like, big guys in pro wrestling, you've got to be a bit smarter. Especially when on the fourth one, he went crashing into a chair. It still didn't look like Moose was going to stop though, because he had become Mum-Ra from the Thundercats, so Rich Swann had to use his smarts, and when he went for another one, Swann kind of reversed it into this cradle pin type thing, or the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, but he put so much arch into his back, it looked flipping great. He got the 1, 2, 3. He is now your double champ, unification champ. Then I had to lie down, I was exhausted. This was terrific. This is also exactly how you should be using the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, because it worked perfectly, and now it does mean we're getting Kenny Omega versus Rich Swann at Rebellion, and I'm excited for that. And Moose also tweeted that he's gonna take some time off. What I actually hope happens is that he turns up in Dynamite or even New Japan and he just wrecks everybody, because you've got something right here, right now. Make sure you don't waste it. Moose would never fit into my hand. So basically, I do need more Moose in my life, and right now I need more Impact in my life as well, because this was a fantastic jumping off point for whatever the hell they're gonna do next. What a good show. Now don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Impact or the Sacrifice pay-per-view. Like the video, share the video and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com, you can read articles about this, plus you can watch more videos, they're flying around my head, and you can follow us on social media. You just gotta click. My name is Swann for What Culture. Make sure you have good Sundays, and I'll see you throughout the week.